Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Benedict Construction, the custom remodel specialists. You've seen us show photos of the work they've done. Decks, patios, kitchens, bathrooms, living rooms, bedrooms, whole homes. Whatever kind of remodeling need you have, they're the group to call. Benedict Construction. All right? And we're going to talk about the needs of next year's basketball team coming up. We're also going to talk about a crazy story that came out about Butch Jones and whether or not the AD search saved his job this year. We'll discuss that coming up. But in this segment, over at the Benedict Construction Big Board, Chuck sits beside me, and we have Mike Strange now manning the board, playing the role of Vanna White today. Nervous?
I don't know why.
Okay. All right, well, what we're going to do, you see there next to Mike, we have eight different categories that we can put in the top 4 here of John Currie's agenda. You've got the Neyland renovation project, mending fences, football, men's basketball, the Lady Vols name, raising funds, and that would be separate from the Neyland renovation, baseball and women's basketball. First on his agenda, and part of that could be calendar driven in my view, but what we're going to do is I'm going to give each of you one to put up there, and that includes Mike, and then I'll tell you why you're wrong. Go ahead, Chuck. What would you put up there?
Well, I mean, I think we would all say one of those in particular, but for me, I'm going to say Lady Vols. And I think that's the way you help in a lot of other things, the first order of business, to come out and say, we're bringing the name back, and it's going to be Lady Vols.
Okay, you can move Lady Vols to the center there. We got 1 vote for Lady Vols and bringing the name back. I would agree he'd win people over immediately. They did a lot of research supposedly on that, so he's got to at least look through that research and see if there's any real reason to have made that move. If there's not, he'd be wise to change it back. Jimmy.
Mend fences.
Mending fences.
Look, he even acknowledged, he said one of the disadvantages of returning to a place where you've been is that you've stepped on people's toes, and he has. And so I think mending fences would help. Look, Tennessee's been fractured with their fan base. Gosh, going back to even when Doug Dickey was hired as AD, right? A lot of people weren't happy about that. So I would say mend fences would be one of my 4.
And I wonder if you go back further. I know there were people that didn't like Bob Woodruff when I was growing up here when I was a boy. So
okay.
I don't know if any fan base could ever be completely united, but this one most of the time isn't. All right, Josh Ward of the list, Neyland renovation, football, men's basketball, raising funds, baseball, women's basketball. What's next on the list?
If we're talking about year 1, I think it goes back to last segment, and I would put football on the board because what happens this year will play a big role in what happens with the athletic department moving forward. So I would agree with what's already been put on the board. I would put men fences there first. I would go football next because I think this season is so important for the future of the athletic department.
Okay, and last, we give Mike Strange the final vote. Since you're working the board and manning it so well, Chuck's finished. What do you got?
I'm looking at women's basketball, men's basketball, Neyland renovation. I'm going to go with Neyland renovation, and that's sticking with the theme that football drives the train here. And anytime you're talking about Neyland, you're talking about a big, big deal. So
okay.
That's what I would go with.
All right, very good. So we got the Lady Vols name, mending fences, football, and the Neyland renovation project. I think the calendar is going to dictate women's basketball. I don't think he's going to make a move on Holly Warlick. Depending on how that thing ends, though, you're going to have people calling for it, which means half the people are going to like or dislike whatever he decides not to do. Then you're going to have baseball. Because the interesting thing there is, it's off to a good start. If it tanks, you're probably going to make a change. If you finish strongly, what kind of a contract do you give Dave Serrano moving forward? I mean, do you now say, okay, now we're all in, here's a 4-year deal? Where are you on that? So I think that's a big one, too. I think
it won't be as big as Curry's contract.
No, it won't. I think we'd all like to have John Currie's contract. All right. That's our view of the agenda. Next, was Butch Jones saved at Tennessee by the AD search? One reporter says that's what an SEC assistant coach told him. We'll talk about that report. Come on back.